photography and videography is something that I want to do for a long, long time. If you make your passion your job, you kind of kill the passion, right? In this day and age, if you're stuck doing just one thing, you may not be able to survive.
How do you overcome, am I going to be stable or not?
My strategy was to create my own stability.
There's always uncertainty. Doing my own business, there's this nervousness, anxiety. How do you overcome some of these feelings?
Play pickleball.
Play pickleball. Okay, yo. Okay, so Ben, welcome to the podcast, man. Like, super cool that you are able to make it. This is the guy who did some photo shoots for me. Turned out really well. A shout out to Zul, who connected us also. But just for our listeners, I know you're a photographer, but there's so much more to you. So tell us more about you, Ben. What do you do? Who you are? What's your story?
Thanks for having me, Gerald. It's such an honor for me to come here and just share my insights and share my story. So I am like a full-time photographer and videographer.
Yeah.
And I like to call myself a purveyor of fine visual goods.
Purveyor of fine visual goods, huh?
Yeah.
Sounds damn sexy.
So I just like to tell stories through moving images as well as still photographs.
Okay.
And that's what I do for a living full time.
Yeah.
Yeah. For clients ranging from corporates all the way to consumer businesses.
Yeah.
In the cafes and bakery scenes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How was your journey towards where you are today? Let's start right from the beginning. What was your childhood like? I'm just very curious. So tell us more about that. How did it all start for you?
I think from young, I kind of found myself in the so-called traditional sense of the creative space very early on. So I was into things like BMX, riding. I got into skateboarding. And I think skateboarding was where my passion for the creative scene kind of bloomed from there. Because in skateboarding, I think it's really marvelous that your human body can actually think about doing tricks with a wooden piece of wooden board, right? And on wheels and go down like rails and jump down stairs and stuff like that. And then of course, the subculture of skating has things like your music subculture.
Yeah.
So a lot of us were into things like hip hop and DJing and then breakdancing as well. So it's the combination of all those creative arts that kind of made me feel like I wanted to have my life revolve around that.
Wow.
And I think that's kind of how it started. Okay. But I mean, of course, most Singaporeans, we tend to go down the conventional path. We go to school, try to get into university, get a degree, and then get a job.
Yeah.
So in essence, that's what I did in a nutshell. I went into advertising for a while, did a bit of this and that. So even when I was in uni, I applied for a startup grant together with a friend, and we managed to get a startup grant from, back then it was called Spring Singapore, right?
Yes.
And then we incubated in NUS Enterprise. And then from there, I mean, things didn't work out. I went to try F&B and I ended up back in corporate.
Yeah.
And then I was working 9 to 5 in marketing and events management for a local company, SME. And then, from there, I felt like, I still didn't manage to scratch that itch in me that I wanted to do something a little bit more creative. Not that the work was bad or my colleagues were bad. I had a really good boss and a very good team, but I just felt that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I was still in my path of searching for what is it that I want to do. And I always ask myself this question, what is something that I'm good at doing, something that I want to do for a long, long time?
Yeah.
Because I think longevity and sustainability is always the thing that I'm looking for in my life. So essentially, I tried to pursue those things, right? So photography was one of the inroads, I would say, into the creative world. And in my mind, the 3 creative things I wanted to pursue were photography, filmmaking, and music. And so photography was the first thing that came to mind. And I feel like it's kind of like the best starting place because to me, photography, the sales cycle is much shorter.
Yeah.
Like, somebody who needs a photograph taker and you go and take a photo, you invoice, you edit, and you get your money ready. So it's quite fast.
Yeah.
So my strategy was, okay, let's keep doing that. So even when I was in corporate, weekends were spent shooting family portraits or portraits of friends, pre-wedding, shooting their weddings and offering my services for a very big discount, right? In exchange for exposure, right? It's that typical conversation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's a lot of talk about that as well. It can be another topic.
I pay you by exposure.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I got no money, but I give you exposure.
But exposure doesn't pay the bills.
Yes. Yeah.
So just from there, I expanded into video.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of clients, they think that once you know photography, then videography is like related. While I call it a cousin of photography, essentially you still study things like how the light falls and how to shape light. There are a lot of common ground between photography and videography. So I decided, okay, let's try and explore. Even though I would say the workflow is so much more different compared to photography, there's so many more things to learn about videography and filmmaking.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I went into it as well. just to expand my horizon, diversify. Because I think in this day and age, if you're stuck doing just one thing, you may not be able to survive. So it was always a matter of, if clients demand a certain thing, then let's try and see how I can build that into my own portfolio of skills. So I just went from there.
Wow.
Yeah, photo and video. And then after working for a few years in corporate, I decided to, okay, let's use my corporate paycheck to save up for gear, buy my cameras, my lenses. And then after that, think about how I can save up maybe 6 to 8 months of runway. And then try out this whole photography thing. Of course, I try to validate it. People will say, oh, you take quite nice photos. I think I'll be willing to pay for that. Then I'll ask them how much you're willing to pay for this kind of service, right? So you just build up from there, build up a portfolio, and then find people who are willing to pay.
It's a real journey, man. I used to skateboard also, but I sucked at it damn badly. But what I really enjoyed, just kind of going back to your start of your journey, right, was really the culture of it, Freestyle, freedom culture. I like how you said that a piece of wood can start flying and do different things. It's an art itself,
Yes.
It's beautiful, and then along came with the music. It's all coming together. I loved it. It was so fun. Yeah, but through your journey, a lot of people who are listening in, maybe the folks who are in the creative space or the younger folks who aspire to do creative work in the long run. And there are many people who are in this space also. What was going through your mind when you were searching for it? How do you overcome those moments?
Well, to be honest, I think I felt lost. And I think it's okay to admit yourself that you don't have all the answers at the start, because nobody does in the beginning of your journey. And that's when you question, what can I do next? So it's always taking the small step first and then putting one foot in front of the other and just keep going, trusting your instincts. Of course, that's kind of abstract to say, but at the end of the day, it's really following the dollars and cents, because that is number one rule of sustainability. How do I actually get cash flow in the first place?
Yeah.
So I have to find clients who are willing to pay.
Yeah.
So you start off with friends, start off with families, start off with word of mouth recommendations, because I think that's the best form of marketing. And I think the work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think when you start off, you got to recognize quite a few things. You got to accept that you're not going to get paid for the first few jobs or the first few months in your moments of trying and figuring things out. And also that people in the beginning also wouldn't be able to pay you that much, because you haven't built much credibility or trust in your line of work yet. And you haven't built quite a vast portfolio in a sense, right? So you got to recognize those few things, that when you start small and then you try to grow from there. It's also trusting your instinct. Don't trust what everyone tells you, because they're speaking to you from their own lived experience.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. I mean, they have lived their own lives their way. So I can't fault them for that. And it's your own responsibility to build your own life. That's what I always believe, right? And then you kind of own it. Because I think if you're in it halfway or you have only one foot in the boat, it's not very committed. I feel like if you want to build your own path and you know that this is what you want to do for the foreseeable future, I mean, not even for the rest of your life, because I think a lot of us also change directions, but it's more or less knowing that I can do this for a considerable amount of time. Yeah. And that's why I think my parents gave me a good piece of advice. They asked me to at least finish my university degree first before explore other things, right? In the context of Singapore, that's important. And the other one was, get a job first, work in the corporate world for a while, work for a company, and learn the ropes before you go out and do your own thing. So I think that also helped me in that 4 years plus experience, to actually see how organizations function.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's where you actually build your network also, right? Because if you just start out on your own like that, right, and you don't have any network in the first place of contacts, right, then who's going to help you spread the word of mouth, right, for your own marketing? So that was a big lesson that I learned in the beginning also. And then when I started off in corporate, and a lot of my clients right now were also from that database of contacts. You don't see it back then, but further down the road, it will actually help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's like, because I think similarly, I always feel that there's a pivotal moment where, yes, I can actually do this. There's always a journey of can I do it? Would I be able to succeed? Right? There is two areas. One would be the actual work itself, the skills to be able to do whatever it takes to succeed and to be the best you can. Be it photography, be it music, be it strategy, whatever, whatever you're selling or the services you're providing, you have to be really competent at it, 10 out of 10, as much as you can, right? And then there's the other part of it is the selling, the commercial part of it. How do I start charging? There usually is a journey. Was there a moment? I'm just curious, what was your journey like? Yeah.
Personally, for me, I was on a journey of, I think, just a constant build-up based on all the experiences that I've been through from corporate and then doing part-time shoots on the weekends.
Yeah.
And what probably made me think that I can do this full-time is the fact that I actually look forward to every shoot.
Wow, okay, yes.
So that's the feeling that you get, that little butterflies in the stomach kind of feeling.
Yes.
You know, like even though I have been doing this for quite a few years now, I still feel the nerves, right, when it comes to a shoot. But it's not a bad problem.
Yes.
Like, the nerves is more like, oh, I'm actually quite excited to do this, but also a bit of a fear, right?
Yeah.
That, oh, I don't really know how to do 100% of the things that are required of me, but I'm going to learn anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it's that excitement that made me realize that I would love to do this and I can continue doing this.
Yeah.
Because if I were to compare it to my previous jobs, it didn't give me the same kind of satisfaction or same kind of excitement that I look forward to. And a lot of people say that if you make your passion your job, then you kind of kill the passion, right? But I absolutely don't find that to be true. Because at the end of the day, I think with every job that you do, there's always some aspect that you don't enjoy and some aspect that you kind of hate. And for me, it's all the admin work and getting all the paperwork done, to report your taxes, etc. But the rewards far outweigh those sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I think innately you kind of know that this is what drives you. And I think from my perspective, I like to create stuff. So creating things like photographs or producing videos, was something that I felt I could create with my hands. So I'm like a very hands-on person. So I like to hold a camera. I like to set up lights. I like to open soft boxes, right, like these or diffusers, and then go and shoot. Yeah. So the excitement is really the thing that drives me each and every shoot, even up to today. It is also not a chore.
Yeah.
Right. I see it as like I get the chance to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like an obligation, like, oh, I have to do it and I drag my feet to the shoot,
Yes.
Yeah, so I actually enjoy the moment. I think once you enjoy what you do, the universe also knows how to help you. So that's my personal belief.
Yeah.
Like people know that, okay, you're a photographer, this is your work, the work kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Or the universe will just send you more jobs your way. And people know how to help you. Because I think if you are kind of lost, right, and you don't know who you are, what your identity is, and like you just tell everybody that, oh, I do everything, you can just look for me, I do this, I do that, then they also don't know how to send jobs your way.
Yes.
So I feel that once you are kind of rooted in your identity and the kind of services you provide, with that kind of clarity, right, then I think that's how you can really grow.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of the money will also find you. In a way. Yeah.
Very, I loved that story, man. I really resonated with something that you said, which was why I was smiling just now. That moment of when you're doing something that really excites you. These emotions that I cannot really explain until you're actually in that space where you're scared, nervous, excited, happy, thrilled. There's all this thing that goes through your heart and your mind, but you just cannot wait to give it a go.
Yeah.
See how well you do, then discover. You could really succeed or you could maybe hit a few bumps. There are a few moments in my life that I felt like that. Usually when I'm excited and thrilled about something that I want to try and learn, but you got to put yourself out there. I've been DJing for many, many years. I started in Australia. I played radio shows, clubs and all that. I love music, right? I'm a music kind of guy. So I learned how to DJ, and like all DJs do, we end up just playing in the bedroom What I really aspire to do, I gave myself like a goal. Like, okay, I can play in a room, but like I'm not really sharing my music to people, and I would love to share the music. So I started doing mixtapes, right? And then I gave it to people. I wanted to play on radio or a club. Okay, it's like, then the only way to do it back then, it was just, I gave CDs or cassette tapes, old school. And then when I landed my first gig on radio at it's a 2-hour morning set, Kiss 90 FM in Melbourne. It's happening and I'm like, I really panicked, right? That moment, that, you're damn scared, but the opportunity is right in front of you. You tried for the past 6 months practicing your skills. Now is the moment, make it happen. Then I was so nervous.
Yeah.
But I felt so good. It felt so fun, And yes, the validation helped. The next DJ came and said, hey, I heard your stuff. It was pretty cool, not bad, nice. And then from there, I was like, okay, let's try again. My goal was to just share music. I also remember the first time I played in a club, it's super scary. The equipment, everything's dark and it's so loud. Then I'm trying to beat match. That feeling of excitement, fear, nervousness, your hands shaking, that people are watching. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little bit addictive sometimes. But what I would say is when you have crossed that barrier, it's extremely fulfilling. I just feel so good, wow. And when you share your creative work or a piece of experience, it could be a something emotional or something tangible, right? And people appreciate it. I love that. and it's just great to see people smiling and like, oh, they enjoyed it and they learned something about it. Like, wow, I never heard that song before. Like, where do you get it from? Back in the day, I got to go record, crate digging, basically, right? Vinyl and all that. That's how I started. But I really connected with what you said there, And then the second moment, that feeling happened for me, right? Was me doing my own business, like now, like when I landed my first deal with a big corporate MNC, and like, okay, this is it. Okay, let's go. Show time. So I prepare everything. Go there. There's this nervousness. There's this anxiety. And even till today, after I've done so many sessions already, if you ask me to DJ again, I can. But even till today, the pride I take in my craftsmanship, that is to me is very important. And sometimes you fail, right? Like, look, we all make mistakes. I don't know how to explain this, but it just feels so satisfying, liberating when you're able to work with people who just trust you to do something. So that the first sessions where I did was like, wow, yeah, so nervous, but when it's done, it's like, yeah, it went really well. So maybe I can do more of it because I want to do more of it, right? Because I enjoyed the interaction, the engagement. I love people's engagement and interaction, like DJing. So when I run my workshops, it's a little bit like a jam session. Like I go there, I got guitar, let's make music together. That's how I look at it. But yeah, that feeling is addictive. But when it comes to you, and the moment arrives, like, oh man, I wish I had more time. That kind of feeling. Yeah. Then you just say, okay, totally. Screw it, let's go. I've done all the work I can, make it happen, and give it a shot. I'm excited when I talk about it. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
Maybe we can call it magic dust.
Magic
dust.
Oh, very creative
the
word.
Magic of it.
Magic dust, yeah. So it's funny, right? Because, were there moments where like that you got a big opportunity, you're so nervous? Is there an example, a story there? How do you overcome some of these feelings? Or it doesn't happen to you? Just very curious.
Yeah, I mean, there were instances in the beginning after I registered my sole proprietorship, right? And then got more and more shoots. Then after a while, the shoots started growing in scale.
Yeah.
So I was commissioned to do like a production type of job where it was supposed to shoot a food consultancy business. So I had to have like many different camera angles, top angle, wide angle, like the static angle, and then close-up shots. And I needed to assemble a team of people who are actually my friends. It's almost like a full production, but it's much scaled down. But in terms of the principle and everything behind it, it's about the same. Yeah. Where you need to hire people for specific roles, right? So you need a food stylist, art director, you need a cinematographer, you need your grips, and then you have a gaffer, all that kind of stuff. Like it's really having to coordinate with a lot of people. Yeah. And that is was my first big shoot in a way. First big production. Yeah. I mean, it taught me a lot of lessons, right?
Yes.
It taught me a lot of things about how to work with people and even people that you may not be so close to. Because of time and circumstances, it all brought you together to that point. Yeah. So you just had to make it happen anyway. And then, of course, you needed an editor to also splice all the videos together. But I think probably that time was the biggest shoot that I did in terms of revenue, in terms of the crew that I needed to assemble together. I remember being very stressed also. And I remember falling sick during that shoot. So there were a lot of things that were going wrong in a way. But it taught me a lot in terms of having confidence, following your instinct. Yeah. And to know that there was a reason why this person trusted you with the shoot. Yes. Right. And probably he or she has seen your work, has seen how you work in terms of your attitude and the intense preparation that you do before the shoot. So you, with that trust, I feel that trust is a big thing. So whenever someone entrusts you so much, you tend to want to protect it and you tend to want to deliver. Yes. Because if you don't, right, then you also know that you're going to break that trust in some way, right? Yeah. So that to me was really about that trust being handed to you. And then you feel a certain sense of wow, this person is actually trusting me to do this, right? So it's an obligation and it's also a transaction, right? Because at the end of the day, it's business. Yeah. So that's on two fronts, right? The trust and the transaction. Opportunities like this come once in a while only, right? I mean, hopefully they come more, so you get more money.
You make more money. You grow a business.
Yeah. So I think being very aware of the kind of person you are also helps. I would call myself like an ambivert. So I'm a bit of after a social setting, I need to go home and recharge my social battery. Yeah. But sometimes with clients, I need to engage with them. So my extroversion is also trainer extroversion. I think you also face this in your own training. Yeah. When you're in the moment, you have to have a different persona, right? Hype it up a little bit. Yes. So to me, it was similar. And then so understanding yourself, having an instinct and, just committing to it. If you say yes to a job, you go in all the way. Just commit, do what you can, despite your limited knowledge. And I think at least the client will see that. And that is something that's important. Because if you're not committed, not 2 feet in the boat, but 1 foot, then it's like, oh, the client is not going to trust you that much because he or she sees that you're not really fully committed.
Yeah.
So once you get the opportunity, I think take ownership. You know, a friend once told me, carpe diem, seize the day. You know, of course, no other days are going to come like this, right? You got to like just take your chances.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what being business owner is or a creative entrepreneur is, because you have to roll with the punches, ride the wave, and when opportunities come, and if you feel that it's okay, because this is also one thing, right? Like sometimes if you get this inquiry from this client, but you kind of know that there's some bad vibes, then your gut kind of takes over and say like, maybe you shouldn't take this job, right?
Yeah.
But if this job comes and you feel very good about it, good vibes and everything, then I think it's a good sign. It's a good starting point.
I have one example of this like project that came on the table with me and my business partners. It's a pretty big project, but I somehow feel that my energy level, how energized or how excited I was, probably like 1 out of 10, you know?
Right, wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
when actually, if the money is good,
Yeah.
but I don't feel 8, 9, 10 or 10 out of 10, right? It's a very different energy. So I think as you work with people, you kind of know like where things are perhaps headed.
Yeah.
There's always uncertainty. If you're an entrepreneur or running a solopreneur doing your own business, how do you overcome, you know, am I going to be stable or not?
In the beginning, you got to know what you're signing up for. You're signing up for a life that is not going to be 100% stable. So my strategy was to create my own stability. And by saying that, I mean like continuing to learn new skill sets that will fit into the demands of your clients and the business needs of your clients. I think that's very important. Basically, is to keep yourself relevant and to know that instability is part of the life that you sign up for. It's part of the equation, right?
Yeah.
And you have to trust yourself, trust your instinct. And at the same time, the practical side of it is you got to see how you can generate revenue or income from different sources, right? So obviously, investments is one of them, savings is one of them. You got to think about how you're going to retire down the road, right? I mean, or are you going to retire at all? Because some of us creators, we don't want to retire. We just want to keep on doing what we love, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, also look for pockets of opportunities where you can diversify.
Yeah.
So like for me, during COVID, what saved me was actually education.
Yeah.
So I could actually give part-time tuition at my friend's student center because she runs a student center where there will be international students who are actually Chinese expats. And what she does is actually student placement. So she'll match them to the different international schools. But as a result of that, there was the demand for tuition. Like these students started asking, because they're Chinese, so their command of the English language isn't exactly top-notch. So they'll ask for help.
Yeah.
And I would basically teach them on like IB film, International Baccalaureate, like the IB film modules, IB visual arts, which incorporates photography. So I came on board as a tutor. So my friend hired me on a contract basis for a number of students in grade 11 and grade 12. So I'll usually take them for 2 years. Because IB film modules, they'll take it on when they're grade 11 and grade 12. And then they'll graduate, go on to university. So for me, that was a lifeline during COVID. I think it was a matter of timing and that we crossed paths at the right time. Because in my spare time or my other life, I do a lot of volunteer work to Cambodia, like mission trips to Cambodia.
Yes.
And that was actually how I met this owner of the student center. From there, she knew that I dabbled in media. So that was a photographer, that was a videographer. So I actually went on the mission trips as the media person, documenting whatever they were doing. And that was how we connected. And that was how she said she has students who need help in IB film, IB visual arts. And that's how I got started. And that saved me. There were also other photographers, you know, in Singapore, they pivoted to making their own sourdough, baking their own brownies, right? So I think having that survival instinct is very important. Spotting opportunities, spotting gaps, and always keeping ear and an eye out for all these things. How I view life is very different now as well. I don't see my time organized into weekdays and weekends. It's day 1 to day 7. If I was still in a 9 to 5, then obviously I would be a little bit more relaxed, I would say. You know, because I know that my paycheck is going to come in at the end of the month. I also don't split my life into like monthly paychecks. It's more like how much do I earn in a year. So it's really looking at life with a different lens and not to be defined by the norms of how people tend to define success by. Because at the end of the day, it's only you know how to lead your life. Don't take advice from people who haven't been down your path. But look for a mentor that maybe who was in the same space as you.
Love it.
Right? Look up to like senior photographers or videographers who have been there, done that. And then you ask them for advice. Oh, how do you plan your later years in your life, because we're not going to be able to carry our cameras for like 10-hour days, when we are like 60 or 50, right? We got to think about how are we going to adjust, adapt, and do other things, right? Yeah. So I think it's being flexible in your mindset.
Yes.
The expectations you give yourself, knowing the kind of life you sign up for, and being open to new things that within your environment.
Yeah. I love how you're putting it, man. It's very inspirational in that sense, because we all grew up with certain expectations set by ourselves or by our families. Like, you have to follow this path. Like, this is a sure way to succeed. But as I kind of experimented and adventured through life, same as you, like creative stuff, music, corporate, for many, many years, there is no path, I feel. It's for you to choose, select, and commit and go down that path. You cannot say, you have to commit. I think I can try this, but you don't commit, and then you end up falling back on what you feel might be the right way or the safer way, which is also fine. The human being is so complicated, and everybody has their own beliefs and aspirations and journeys. It's okay. There's no judgment, right?
Yeah.
But what I've discovered is, and through my early days also, is like, it's not a linear path. And only by exploration, by trying things out, then you know. It takes a bit of guts sometimes. And the question is, how do you build that muscle to keep trying new things or pushing the boundaries of what your life could be? But somehow, through my journey in corporate, whenever I spoke to people who do their own thing, I'm like, man, that is like the freedom. It's scary, but when they talk about it, like the stories are just so rich.
Yeah.
It's just so rich. Like in corporate, I'll be like, I launched a really good product. I worked with 5 markets and we delivered X million revenue. I've achieved that. I got promoted to the next level. I got big payout. Bonus was great. Of course, that's great. I'm not saying it's good or bad. But when I hear the stories of my friends who do their own business, it's different because the product they have to create. The value in the brand they have to create. The team they have to hire and they have to pay them. And there's a lot of like failures and struggles. But it just makes the story so much richer, right? From the outside, I wish I could do it. Then I was like a bit scared. What if I got no money? I got no paycheck. I'm worried and all that. Yeah, so eventually, when the time was right for me, which is much later in my career, I'm like, okay, let's go. Treat it like there's no plan B. There's no plan B, meaning that this is it. Like, you're going to commit to this journey for the next whatever distance you want to run this for. The way my friends who are doing their own thing navigate life and their business is just like very different. So I'm very inspired when I hear these stories. Like, that's why I like to talk to. I invite a lot of entrepreneurs, like creative people on the podcast, just because I feel your stories are very rich in a different way. Not saying corporate stories are boring. There's a different dimension to it, right? But personally also I enjoy these stories more than that. But so I think that was my journey, kind of building on what you were saying just now. Like, how do you find that muscle to do different things, try it out, give it a shot. Enjoying this podcast? Hit the like and subscribe button so that we can continue bringing you great content. So tell me more about your volunteering work, man.
My fundamental belief in my life and in what I choose to do in my life is that I think there's always an element of giving back.
Yeah.
And because I personally believe that I've been blessed with resources and so many good things, so many talents, that I should give back in some way.
Yeah.
So having that fundamental core value was something that I developed, I think, in my past when I was more active in church and so on and so forth. And then that taught me reciprocity and to value the things that I have, be grateful for what has been given to me. So I see it as a way to give back to society. And I say society in a very loose sense because obviously when I go to Cambodia, I'm in Cambodia, I'm not giving back to Singapore. But in some ways, we bring a lot of Singaporeans there.
Yes.
And like I mentioned, we got connected with this student center owner, my friend, and then that was how she knew that I do photography and videography, and then she got me on board with this group that goes to Cambodia every year in June and in December. So I go twice a year to villages in Battambang province in Cambodia. And from there, we reach out to about 10 separate villages within the province. And then we do things like teach them physics, science, English, even dance activities.
Wow.
And then for me personally, I would teach them photography and video editing on CapCut and, simple things like that. It's just a way that keeps me fulfilled. And because it's in my search of meaning in life that I feel at the end of the day, if let's say I'm shooting for corporates, right? I shoot a corporate event or I make you look good, but then it kind of stops there. Like what comes after that, right? There's not much after that. They post their photos on LinkedIn. They write a post, an insightful post on what the event is about, etc. That's all good in a day's work. But for me, I also look for what's after that, what's beyond that. And meaning comes into play. And that's how I derive meaning for my life, having that value of being able to give back because I've been given so much.
Yeah.
And it was another case of serendipity, how I met my friend, and then timing, the set of circumstances we were in. And then I found myself going on a trip once in 2022, and then I've not looked back since.
Yeah.
So I've been going twice a year since 2022.
Wow.
And because of that, we built relationships with the people there.
Yes.
And they've become friends, right? So I've started learning more Khmer just to be able to speak with them, on a more personal level, and to be able to be in touch and immersed in their culture, just to understand them a bit better.
Yeah.
And I think that provides a whole new dimension to your life.
Yeah.
Because being part of another culture enables you to see things from fresh perspectives, right? How do they view life compared to how we Singaporeans view life here, right? So when Singaporeans go overseas to Cambodia, when we bring them on these mission trips, we also open their eyes to the set of circumstances that these people are living in, right? Obviously, they are materially more poor in these villages, right? But in terms of psychological and emotional well-being, they're actually quite far ahead.
Right.
They're very happy. Whereas I think in Singapore, we have a bit of emotional poverty, and we tend to be very prideful. We know our egos are very fragile. And in terms of happiness and contentment, a lot of us chase materialism, right? Of course, I'm generalizing. I'm not saying everyone. Being in Cambodia afforded me this new perspectives.
Yeah.
And to be able to be on the other side, and to understand what people go through on a day-to-day basis, if they cannot put food on the table, but then they also are still very happy in their families, right? Despite having little.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's what keeps me going back also, because I formed friendships there.
Amazing, man.
There are also a lot of like religious orders, NGOs, from different countries who go there and help. And also even recently, the Cambodia-Thai conflict was another big thing.
Yeah.
We had to cut short our mission trip. And then it was a huge logistical operation just to have everyone shipped out of Cambodia and come back here, but also not wanting them to feel like we abandoned them.
Yeah,
also,
correct.
That's another thing, right?
Yeah.
Because of the friendships that were formed. So I think the search for meaning prompted me to go down that path, do volunteer work, mission work. And I think that now is like an integral part of me really. Like I feel like I can't live my life without having that part of me now.
That's amazing, man. The search for meaning. I think that's a really powerful statement. What would you advise someone who's searching for meaning?
Wow.
I don't know. Of course, it's a very big question.
It's a very big question.
Let's explore. How would you advise somebody if they're searching for meaning?
I think if someone feels a certain sense of emptiness in their life, that would automatically prompt them to search for some meaning or purpose. Probably that's where I was as well, in terms of thinking about or reflecting deeply about my craft, right? If I do photography and videography, how can I use it for a greater purpose?
Yes.
Right? And I think it was because I felt that there must be more to this. Like, what else can I do besides just creating nice photos and videos? There must be something that I can use it for.
Yeah.
And that just was an automatic thought process that came to me. I feel like the search for meaning is not essentially very intentional, but it just came to me. Just as a matter of being very reflective about my life. So I think once you start to ponder about life, as you start to think about, is there more to my routine? Because time is flying by so quickly.
Yeah.
One moment you're in your 20s, next you're in your 30s, next you're looking at your 40s, right? So that at the end of the day, your life is going to expire at some point.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a byproduct of maturing. That you start to search for some meaning in life.
Yes.
I mean, in your teens, in your 20s, I think you can be forgiven for not thinking about these things too much, right? But as you grow older, you're like, oh, if my life is going to end, what do I want to be known for? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? I think that's a common topic that the people in their 50s, 60s also start to think about, right? Especially for people in wealth management circles, right? They'll always talk about family legacy. What do I want to leave behind for my kids?
Yeah.
And then they start talking about all these themes of like more purpose and what they want to achieve besides their work, So everything becomes very tied to what becomes your goal in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, what becomes your purpose in life.
Yeah. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
How do you advise somebody searching for meaning in their lives, right?
Yeah.
This is a very good question that I asked you and I'm going to answer myself. So I came from a single parent family, right? My mom gave us everything. Not filthy rich, but like gave us education, discipline, within whatever her means could be. And I say this in previous shows as well. Like, my mom is what anchors me to do what I do just because I don't want to disappoint her. She's sacrificed so much to raise my brother and I, and then we were not easy. That was my starting point. We come from different backgrounds, and some of us will have very tough childhoods. And then some of us who are a little bit lucky or blessed or lucky. And then, so it's like, I think it starts with being grateful for and recognizing what I have through my life. Yeah. And therefore, like, how does it link to meaning? Because I'm thankful and appreciate my journeys. I always have this prayer when I was a kid. I always pray saying that, God, thank you for everything you've given me, but I would like to experience life in all its entirety.
Wow.
Meaning, if it's painful, let me learn from it. If it's joyous, let me share it, or I can learn from it also. That was a prayer that I remember clearly as a kid. Dear God, let me experience life in its entirety. Because I just felt that life was so big that I want to experience it now. You know, the falls, the pains. I suppose the underlying meaning was, what can I learn from every moment in life that can help myself improve or help others grow? You know, so it's about that. I would tell somebody, like, you know, think of the good things that you had. Yeah. And what have you learned from it? And from there, reflect, what can you do for others? Because meaning for yourself is just selfish. And we're all selfish in our own ways, of course, like all human beings. I think that's where you probably find more meaning, when it's about others than just yourself. Yeah. Wow, that just came.
I think you put it beautifully, man. Yeah.
That just came up. But
you summed it up, yeah.
Because meaning comes from, and then for yourself, it's for others, right? Like, I suppose that's how I found what I do now in terms of working with leadership, working with people in a different level. I mean, different aspects of their journeys, because everyone's journey is different. If I can play a role in somebody's journey in corporate, or in their personal life, then great. You don't have to be the Pope, right? You know, but we all find our ways. And the Pope's journey is the Pope's journey. And we have to find our own journeys, our own circle. So that's meaning to me. I suppose it's about others, right? If it's something for others, then we share the love. A meal is only meaningful sometimes when you share with friends, right? Something like that, you know? So, okay.
I think I remember that prayer. I'll remember it.
I don't know where that came from. Probably, I suppose that came up when my father first passed away.
I see.
I was probably 9 years old. It was very traumatic, right? My mom came back shopping, and then there were policemen outside my house. I was having tuition. A police officer told what happened. Like, he had a heart attack cycling. So that's what happened. And then I cannot remember. I cannot forget that image, right? So I suppose that prayer came when, during the first few days of his death, there were a lot of people coming in, and I see all sorts of emotions. I was telling myself, wow, I'm very happy here. You know, and then they're suddenly so sad. We were meant to move to a nice house, and I remember that clearly, and then it's all gone. You know, like, why? How come? You know, I questioned myself. Right. So then, like, okay maybe that's life. So therefore, I was still very young, so I wasn't sure. So I said, I remember that maybe that's how the prayer came about. Yeah, but it's a very weird prayer, but I don't know. We'll see. So that has been something. Well, I never spoke about it before. So thank you for bringing it out on me. That's very cool. But that's how I perhaps think about things. Yeah. So we spoke about life. We spoke about your hobbies, about creative work, your meaning of life, Cambodia, and all that. Is there something about Ben that we don't know that you would like to share?
Well,
think about it.
We talk about pickleball briefly.
Yes.
So that's been like my other life. I play a lot of pickleball now because I have basically transitioned from a previous sport, which is road cycling. It was only recently that I made the decision to move away from it. And I say that with a tinge of sadness and regret, also because I was very passionate about road cycling. And when I'm passionate about something, I like to go deep into it, you know. And I mentioned to you earlier that I sold my road bike already because I put it up for quite a few months, because for road cycling, you need a very specific kind of buyer. Yeah. I still respect the community. I still love the sport. It's just that it has a very high risk profile. And I think especially in Singapore, where drivers are not exactly the most tolerant of cyclists on the road. And I made the decision to move away from it just to reduce my risk profile. And I think this is tied to the fact that my goals now in life are more towards longevity, sustainability. I had a few near misses on the road, you know, in terms of accidents. I got in an accident once, but thankfully no serious injuries. I've had drivers try to intimidate me on the road, you know, like swerve their car close to me and then swerve out again. Trailer trucks who would just blare their horn because they're so irritated with road cyclists on the roads, especially along West Coast Highway. And, you know, so it just made me realize that Singaporean drivers, I generalize, but so many of them are so intolerable of cyclists on the road. So there's that culture of accepting road cyclists or accepting cyclists as fellow road users, Like, to me, why do you target cyclists so much when I also see long distance runners running on the double yellow lines? I don't know whether you've seen those before.
I've seen, yeah.
So I'm also wondering, like, why is it so easy to hate on people? And I have this peculiar, actually it's because Singapore is very hot. Like, because of the heat, right? Everyone is just so easily frustrated. We want to get into the next aircon building.
Yeah.
And then because of that, like, we just have no patience for other people who get in our way, right? So I think as a whole, in terms of graciousness, we still have some way to go. I mean, if I were living in Denmark or in the Scandinavian states, or in Australia, I think I would continue cycling. But just for the fact that I'm in Singapore and I want to live longer, because I love what I do and I want to do it for as long as I can.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that to me now is a non-negotiable, right? And I still have a lot of close friends who cycle, and I still respect them. We're still really good friends. I mean, falling out of love with the sport doesn't mean falling out with your friends. So we still catch up and I do keep a few bikes. So that's more for like the non-road users, right? So I still have my gravel bike, still have my mountain bike. And the fact that I think this longevity theme has just taken over my life in quite a big sense. And that's why I transitioned to another sport, pickleball, for now. And I think it also ties into my whole mantra of being able to keep fit, right? Because I think if you want to do what you love for as long as you can, you got to be healthy, you got to be fit.
Yes.
You got to think about like what you put into your body and stuff like that. So even thinking about meals and nutrition nowadays become quite a big part of my day-to-day. And being a person who is aspiring towards creative independence, right? I want to live a life as free as possible, have as much control over my time as possible. All this kind of like just ties in together with how I approach life. So so that's been the story of my life so far.
Oh, I love that. I love how you put it, man. Like the longevity of living a creative life and to sustain that. Health is like the key thing. If you don't have that, nothing else works. But I think living the creative life, I mean, your story has been building up towards that. How do you sustain that long-term creative life that gives you the freedom to enjoy what you do, to find meaning in what you do, Yeah, it sounds very inspirational, very cool, man. Why I do these podcasts is to tell stories like that, who have been through this journey. How did they feel? How did they overcome some of the challenges? And actually what their goals are in life, right? How do we get to what they want to do eventually? But everyone's different now, obviously. Last question. You could have dinner with any 3 people. Who would they be? And why would that be important to you?
3 people.
2 or 3 people that you feel that you want to have dinner with. Who would they be and why?
Well, I think one of the people I follow on Instagram is Chris Do from The Future.
Yeah.
So I feel like I would want to pick his brains in terms of how he runs his business. Because I think he also talks about the future of work and how it will evolve next time, which is actually in line with a lot of things that I'm thinking about nowadays. How people would eventually want to work for themselves, have their own personal brands. And I think working for a very big corporation is not going to be very glamorous as it was like before. Like, last time you could tell people, I work for Nike, Adidas, or Google, Apple, it would be a really, really big thing. But because of, as you said, uncertainty in the industry and in our current times, no one's really ever guaranteed a job these days. And I feel that that's why some of us would like to break out on our own, if we can, given our circumstances, given our own different starting points. And I would basically want to ask him, because he has a lot of wisdom and knowledge about how you price yourself and how you value yourself and your services, how to position them to the kind of clients you want to attract. Because I think in our line, we also want to attract our ideal kind of clients who see us as partners, not as just vendors, right? Not as just, I am your paymaster, I pay you to do this, 100%. And I'm going to stretch you for the dollar, right? As much as possible, I want to be able to continue to attract the suitable type of clients for my type of work. And just to pick his brains on that, I think a lot of media personalities, even like Gary V, from Vayner Media, and just really how do they grow so big and how do they handle so many people under them? Because I think as a solopreneur, one could argue that you're still kind of employed, right? But you're self-employed. But that also means that you're trading time for money. Right? And I can only shoot a certain number of hours a day and spend a certain number of hours editing. Right? So if I don't hire people under me and create a production house, then I can't scale. Right? But then also begs the question that I want to shoot and direct my own stuff, right? I don't want to manage people under me because that's not my passion. My passion is in the craft, in the art, in the directing and the shooting. Also, it prompts me to think about other ways of maybe earning royalties. If someone commissions you to produce a soundtrack, then you earn money from the royalties. Or if someone commissions you to do a short film, then you also earn royalties from that, right? So I think there are many different ways. It's just like thinking about, have I thought of all the different ways? And if I could have mentor figures like these two people, right, then that would be great in helping me to get to the next level that I'm looking at, and to really be able to scale despite being a solopreneur.
Yeah.
Because I also feel that I'm not in the full position to call myself full-fledged business owner.
Yeah.
Because I think if you call yourself a business owner, you got to be able to run different teams, run different businesses, and automate processes, or run different teams so that you can put yourself out of the picture.
Yes.
Right? And then everything can run autopilot. But I'm not really that kind of person. Like, my business is a sole proprietorship. And I like to do the stuff in my own way and do it on my own, right? And just hire my friends who are like my collaborators. And so I think it's bringing into perspective all these different facets of being a solopreneur and running your own thing. Yeah. I mean, I like to tell people that I'm semi-retired. But semi-retired in the sense that I have certain control over my time.
Yes.
But I just don't have the full cushion of someone who is like 60, 70 years old looking to retire. Right? I don't have that kind of money sitting in my bank account. But I am kind of living that life where I can choose to have coffee, or I can choose to have a podcast with Gerald. Thanks for the invite. At all times of the day, I can do what I want in that sense. Yeah. And I want to get to the point where I can choose the kind of clients I want to work with. I wouldn't say that I'm there yet, but that's where I'm trying to work towards. And also continue to look at how can my career develop in the later years? And if I'm not shooting based on a per hour basis, can I be, for example, an adjunct lecturer at a poly, for example, after gaining that certain number of years of experience, right? Then you go to a tertiary institution, and then you also give back in that way. So the education part is also a big thing. And I think these two people that I mentioned are people that will help me to think about how to take my business to the next level.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love these two guys also. Two things came to mind as you were sharing that. One is like, similarly, like the work that I do is we trade time for money, right? In that sense, like how much value you bring and how much they want to pay you, X couple of $1,000 per hour or whatever. It's not scalable because it's just you, right? So I've been thinking about how do I scale that? Like, you want to make money when you're sleeping. How do you provide value that people can pay you for without you 100% being there? And also another point about the way things are moving in the working environment. In organizations are always a little bit shaky, volatile these days. We see all these layoffs happening. And the heart goes out to the people who are still like figuring out what could they do within this transition. A lot of things that you said today really resonated with me, and nothing is going to be like long-term permanent, right? I think with this thinking, hopefully it just drives that collaboration and creator and having a founder mindset, like everyone needs to create. Act like creators. We're always creating new innovation, new thinking. So Ben, like, thanks for being on. Like, I think you've been so open, so transparent. I really loved it. Your stories really resonated, and I hope people listening in will resonate with it also.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I really enjoyed being able to share these insights, because I think I mentioned to you before also that I was planning to do something similar where I interview my fellow creative friends in the circle and really to get their insights about how they approach their work, their philosophy, their thinking. Because I think a lot of this is not spoken, it's not shared, and more people have to listen and hear about it. Because when I listen to you or listen to other people share about the insights, then I'm like, actually we're all thinking the same thing, but we're not sharing it.
I just had a call with my PR and media. She asked me like, oh, Gerald, like, actually, like, why are you doing this podcast? I want people to hear stories from people who have lived different kind of life or taken a different approach in life, either in career or in their personal journeys, right? What goes through their minds? What was their journeys like? What did they learn? And what can others learn from you and the other guests that have been on? Even though if you're a corporate person, I just want to hear those stories. So I feel that everyone has their own stories, but I personally feel the stories are richer when I speak with independent or entrepreneurs.
I think it helps us to also feel a certain sense of relief that there are other people going through the same thing. And that sense of solidarity. And then we can share notes, really help each other and believe in each other's success. Because at the end of the day, the thing about scarcity mindset, which I think is still quite prevalent today, is another topic. Like people will hoard, or people will be scared that you'll be more successful than them, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like everyone wins if we actually believe in the success of each other.
I love that, man. I mean, it's just a very different mindset. So it's more self-centeredness versus team. And when they say, we're all a team, but actually sometimes they don't really function as a team. So a lot of the work that I do in corporates is how do I break that down further? One of my big statements is we can drive performance in organizations in a more human and sustainable way. It doesn't have to be toxic. It can be open, and it takes time. It takes a lot of work, but it all starts with the leadership, of course, because if the leaders is like not even setting the culture, then everything just falls apart, right?
Yeah.
And how do teams then work together? So big challenge, obviously, big statement. I've seen it work for some teams already. Thankfully, I've got great clients also. Well, even in my corporate career, I've seen that happen. But that's also the reality of the business world, right? We're in it to make money. We are in it to grow the business. So we do it as much as we can in a more human, sustainable way, but still drive top tier competency and performance. Can we achieve that? Like a F1 team, a sports team, how can we function like an elite sports team, but we don't burn everybody out. The athlete still is able to perform and win gold medals and succeed together. So there is some ways of working. And how do we find the right mix? How do we even end up here? I don't know. But but you're saying about entrepreneurship, right? Sharing and all that.
That's the beauty of conversations.
Yeah.
Very
nice, man. So thanks, Ben, for being on. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. Where can people find you, Ben?
On Instagram, I am alias Ben Raphael Chia, just one word, Ben, RAPHAELCHIA. So you can find me there, and all my work I post there as well. And you can find all my sub-accounts on that Instagram handle as well.
Thank you all for listening and checking out the podcast. Stay tuned. More content, more amazing guests will be following. I'll see you real soon. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.